Welcome aboard, everybody. Dr. Peter Glidden here, your steadfast advocate for health, welcoming you to another live edition of Fire Your MD Now, a.k.a. The Dr. Glidden Show. If you're watching on YouTube, thank you so much. If you would like to join a worldwide live chat session for free associated with the video cast of this radio program, go to thedrgliddenshow.tv, thedrgliddenshow.tv. Give us your email address. We keep it all in-house. We don't sell it to Big Pharma. And you will have immediate access to the chat room where there are currently 94 people in attendance from all over the world. This is Metaphysical Thursday, and on Thursdays we let our hair down a little bit and we talk about concepts which are outside of the ken of normal, conventional scientific inquiry. If you believe in God, you are a practicing metaphysician. If you believe in life after death, you are a practicing metaphysician. If you have ever told anyone that you love them, you are practicing metaphysics. Metaphysics, the concepts encompassed in the world of metaphysics are those concepts which we experience in the physical world, which are outside of the ability of Newtonian science to be able to accurately assess, right? Well, for instance, if you've ever told someone you love them, well, that's great, but can you prove it? I want you to prove it. Prove it to me that you love your wife. Prove it. Prove it to me that you love your mother. Can you prove it? No, you can't prove it. However, you know it to be true down to your very bones. This is metaphysics, and today I have the great pleasure to talk to a colleague and a friend of mine, a chiropractic physician, Dr. Matthew Peel. I'm going to bring him up here in just a second. And Dr. Peel is a very talented chiropractor. He'll tell us a story in a little bit about his work with the Chicago Blackhawks years ago. And the type of diagnostic discovery that he's been using very effectively for the last few years is a type of diagnostic technique referred to as applied kinesiology. It is fascinating, awesome, and 100% inside of the realm of metaphysics. Let's bring Dr. Peel up right now. Dr. Peel, thank you so much for being with us. How is it going?
Going well, Peter. Thank you, Dr. Glidden, for having me on your show.
It's my pleasure. Let me bring up your contact information for the listening audience. Dr. Peel's website, evolve2wellness.net. You can see it on the video stream. Evolve, the numeral 2, wellness.net. The phone number for his office here in Western Springs, Illinois, which is a suburb of Chicago, 855-EVOLVE-U. I love that, 855-EVOLVE-U. So, Dr. Peel, give the listening audience a little bit of a background on applied kinesiology and what that's all about.
Yes, absolutely. Applied kinesiology is a diagnostic value system. It was founded in 1964 by a Dr. George Goodhart out of Detroit, Michigan. He was a chiropractor, a second-generation chiropractor. His father was a chiropractor and a naturopathic physician. And Dr. Goodhart was brought up in the healing arts. And when he was introduced with the book Kendall and Kendall, some physical therapists that wrote the textbook on manual muscle testing to help polio patients, he learned how to specifically test specific muscles, identify them. But what he was notable for in 1964 was he found that he could identify a muscle that was functionally inhibited, not functioning to its optimal capacity, how we would expect it to. But what he noticed was you could instantly change the way that muscle was functioning. And from that point on, he began teaching that to other physicians. Applied kinesiology is a diagnostic value system, and his original intention of it was to create a system with it which we could have interdisciplinary communication. And today, to study and practice applied kinesiology, it's limited to physicians with a license to give a diagnosis. So it is only for licensed professionals to study and practice. But in our association, the International College of Applied Kinesiology, which you can view at ICAK.com, or which is worldwide, and the USA chapter is ICAKUSA.com. You can find more information there. But it is very multidisciplinary. I was just in Washington, D.C. for the 50th anniversary USA and International Conference, and I wrote the diplomat exam this year. And for the practical exam, I thought it was very fascinating. I had a German dentist, a Guatemalan medical doctor, and a British osteopath administering the practical exam to me. So it is a very diverse group of physicians worldwide. Next year, the international conference is going to be held in Korea. And the year previous, it was recently in Canada, France, and Australia.
Dr. Peel, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, has more initials after his name than I do, and you have to respect someone who gets into continuing education to this degree as their career progresses down the road of life. So, Dr. Peel, all right, so give us a practical example. If somebody came to see you as a patient, what would an applied kinesiology treatment look like to them, and what information could you gain from an applied kinesiology diagnostic program?
Yeah, absolutely. So when visiting an applied kinesiologist, or what we call ourselves professional applied kinesiologists, that's someone who has gone through the proper certification and passed the examination. We have three primary methods of diagnosis of the body. It's a very holistic system. First is a postural and/or gait analysis, where we look at the standing posture or we look at the gait, and what we try and identify is a muscle or muscle group that is presenting the greatest distortion. And our thought there is that is probably going to be a primary link to whatever issue the person has going on. Another method of diagnosis would be the acupuncture pulse point diagnosis, where we would find what we call an indicator muscle. That would be a normal functioning muscle. And we have the patient, therapy localized, contact themselves their pulse point, located right over the radial artery at the wrist. And this is an age-old acupuncture diagnostic technique, but we use that in applied kinesiology. So on the wrist, you can go right over here. And the pulse point, the traditional pulse point, there's 3 on each wrist. And on the other side, there's another 3. So it's very fascinating. I'll go over them real quickly for you. On the right wrist, here we have the metal element, the earth element, and the fire element. And on the left wrist, we have the fire element again, the wood element, and the water element. Each of those elements has a yin and yang meridian associated to them. And so through seeing how their indicator muscle responds when they contact one of those elements, we can identify a primary dysfunction, a primary deficiency in the chi system of acupuncture.
So let me just see if I have this correct, because I understand these concepts. I'm not sure how many people in the listening audience do. We have a very educated audience. So what you're telling me is that by becoming adept at reading the pulse points, which are developed through the acupuncture school of medical thought, by diagnosing the pulse on both wrists, you can get a really good sense diagnostically of what part of that person's body needs help. Well, maybe it's the thyroid that needs help. Maybe it's the left knee that needs help. Maybe it's the spleen. Maybe it's the heart. Is this basically the idea that we're talking about, that by discernment of the pulse through an acupuncture point of view, you're given very relevant, pertinent, and effective diagnostic information. Is this basically where we're going?
Absolutely, Dr. Glidden. Say the heart element yin meridian, or the fire element heart, which is the heart, is the yin meridian of the fire element. If that's the one that seems to come up relevant, then in applied kinesiology, we have figured out which muscles of the body are on those meridian systems. So in that case, we'd be looking at the subscapularis muscle, a rotator cuff muscle. So your rotator cuff issue, your shoulder problem, may be a heart issue.
Oh, that's fascinating. So my head just exploded a little bit here. Okay, right. This is really fascinating, and this is such a really great example of a holistic system of thought. You know, we throw this word around, holistic, way too much. People don't even know how to spell it, let alone know what it is. But this is fascinating. So what you're telling me is that it is the experience of professional applied kinesiology practitioners that different muscle groups of the body have direct relationships to organ function, and by paying attention to what's going on with the pulse, it can give you an indication of which muscle group to diagnose, and by diagnosing the muscle group, you can get a bead on the pathology hidden inside the body. My head just exploded. We are up against a hard break. Stick around with us, Dr. Peel. This is going to be a very interesting hour. So very glad that you are here with me today. His website, ladies and gentlemen, evolve2wellness.net, evolve2wellness.net. The phone number, 855-EVOLVE-U. I am Dr. Peter Glidden, and this is the luckiest day of your life. You've tuned in to Fire Your MD Now. Stick around. Welcome back, everybody. Dr. Peter Glidden here, your steadfast advocate for health, encouraging you, if you're watching on YouTube, to go to thedrgliddenshow.tv, thedrgliddenshow.tv. I'll bring up that metric for you right now, thedrgliddenshow.tv, which will give you immediate access to our worldwide live chat, which is directly linked to this radio program. There are over 120 people in the live chat now from all over the world. Hang out with like-minded individuals. It is an empowering experience. Talking to my friend and colleague, Dr. Matthew Peel, a licensed chiropractic physician who also is a diplomate in professional applied kinesiology. We're talking about kinesiology here this afternoon. It is fascinating, a fascinating subject. All right, Dr. Peel, you are back live. So here's the deal, right? Through the applied kinesiology pulse diagnosis, we get a sense of which muscle groups may be affected, and then by doing the kinesiology diagnostic array on the muscle group, we get a sense of which organ is affected. Am I more or less in the right territory here?
Yes, absolutely, Dr. Glidden. Go ahead. One of the basic principles that we utilize respecting applied kinesiology is an old chiropractic principle, not talked about too much these days in conventional chiropractic medicine, but we call it the triad of health. If you imagine an equilateral triangle, each of those sides represents the areas that we need to acknowledge. And the bottom of that triangle being the structural and physical nature of our health, and then the other two sides being our mental, emotional, and the other one are chemical. And all of those sides need to be respected, and that's what we do. So through the pulse diagnosis, we find a muscle. Earlier I gave the example of the subscapularis for the heart. And then we would identify what is the emotional component to that, chemical component to that, and physical structural component to that, and address all those areas for the betterment of the patient.
So how would you then intervene once you've determined that a particular organ system is at play, or there's a particular weakness, in the liver or the gallbladder or the left knee? What then do you do therapeutically, and how do you track the effectiveness of the treatment?
Yeah, so we can identify how effective the treatment will be before we administer the treatment.
Wait a minute. Whoa. Wait a minute. My head just exploded again. So you're telling me that through this technique, you are able to get a sense of which therapeutic nutrients, which herbs, which treatments are going to be most effective for that individual and which ones are going to be least effective?
Absolutely, Dr. Glidden.
Oh, that's just awesome. Why every physician in the world doesn't do this is quite beyond me. So let's pretend that I'm a patient. I've come to see you. I don't really know anything about applied kinesiology. You lay me down on a typical chiropractic or a massage table, right? Read my pulse points, and then what are you going to do? How are you going to assess the functionality of different muscle groups? What does that look like to a newbie?
Yeah, what that'll look like. So again, I'll stick with, you go on the table and we check your pulse points. Again, let's say we go to your wrist here, and nothing wrong here. We get to this point right here, and we have an issue, and we suspect, maybe the person's already complaining of a shoulder problem or not, and we find that maybe it's not a shoulder problem, but an elbow problem or a wrist problem. Or a chest problem, and we find that the subscapularis muscle is not maintaining normal contraction. It's not normally facilitated. It's functionally inhibited. From that point, we use a technique called therapy localization. That was found in 1976, again by Dr. Goodhart. And what that is we can merely have the patient contact reflex points. In this case, we're talking acupuncture. So we would have the patient touch on their body, located just below the chest, what's called a move point in Chinese, or an alarm point, acupuncture point of their body. And if their muscle changes instantly to the patient touching that, we know how to appropriately treat that dysfunctional muscle and acupuncture meridian.
Unbelievable. Everything's connected, ladies and gentlemen. This just gets better and better. Thankfully, I am not the only one sounding the clarion call of holistic medicine to anyone with ears to hear. Very happy to have our very special guest, Dr. Matthew Peel. Stick around. Much more to come. Na, 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 na. Sing it with me, folks. I know you want to. Dr. Peter Glidden here, your steadfast advocate for health, welcoming you to Metaphysical Thursday, where we're talking to a colleague and friend of mine, Dr. Matthew Peel, a chiropractic physician. Check out his website, evolve2wellness.net. Dr. Peel, welcome back. So, I know from my personal conversations with you that for a while you were working with members of the Chicago Blackhawks. And I'm wondering if you'd like to share a story from your time with them. I believe there was one of the players that you were working with during one of the playoffs, and your work with him had a dramatic impact on the results of the playoffs. You feel comfortable talking about that?
Yeah, sure. You talk a little bit about that.
Okay, because it involves applied kinesiology. Your treatments involved applied kinesiology, and nobody else could figure it out. And you used applied kinesiology not only to figure it out, but to fix it. So give us a little insight.
Yeah, that's right. Well, we had a player that he had a pretty severe injury, and he couldn't play. And when I had just started working with him a little bit and seeing some players, and that was going pretty well, and started seeing some more players and kind of bringing it in, trying it out. Well, they brought a player to me that they said there was nothing that could help him, is what was told to me. And I said, well, we'll try it out. And he had an injury that he wasn't able to move his arm very well. And I got him to move his arm better right in that moment. And, I think 5-10 minutes working with him. And they asked me to come back the next day, and they thought that was pretty amazing. I was rather frustrated that I only got a little bit of movement. only increased his movement by 10, 15 degrees. They thought that was pretty significant. It wasn't for me, but the next day I came back, and what I knew was that I couldn't get past that because the muscle necessary to get past that range of motion, it needed a nutrient. It actually needed chemical support, and so I couldn't put that in with my hands, and they didn't have that chemical they needed on hand. So I had to go back to my office. The next day when I returned, I asked him, checked his range of motion. It was about the same as when I'd left. So it had maintained what we had worked on the day before, but it hadn't gotten worse or better. And so I had him chew up that chemical substance, and his 15 degrees range of motion went to about 50 to 60 degrees range of motion.
Wait a minute. How long did that take to go from 15 to 60 degrees?
Long enough to chew up a tablet.
Well, all right, you have to tell us what it was. You have to tell us what the supplement was.
And, so then, where he was stuck at, I knew that, the next muscle group relating, that first one was relating to the brain, the muscle relating to the brain. Then the second one where he was stuck at, it was a muscle group relating to the lungs. And so I got a product with vitamin C in it, and I had him chew that up with the original product, which was ribonucleic acid, and had him chew those up, and he then had over 100 degrees range of motion in that moment. And some of the players standing around watching could not believe their eyes and commented, I don't think I can share exactly what they said, but it was rather funny at the time. And that was in about a moment of within a minute time of evaluation. And so then from that point, we went to look at the emotional and the physical aspects of that so that we could get a better outcome.
And ultimately, what was the better outcome? Didn't he have a pivotal role in the playoffs?
Yeah, conventionally his injury would be a 2 to 3 months. He'd be out 2 to 3 months, and yeah, it was in the playoffs. And he was back on the ice in 7 days. He was in the game in 7 days. I don't know that's ever. I haven't heard of that being done yet. And he played a significant role in them winning a championship.
Man, you gotta love it. Applied kinesiology to the rescue. Dun, 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 dun. If you're a Chicago Blackhawks fan, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You gotta love that, ladies and gentlemen. Applied kinesiology is an awesome diagnostic technique, and it is an awesome indicator of therapeutics, right? You can tell when you apply kinesiology professionally and correctly whether or not the nutritional supplements that you think in your head the person needs are actually needed by them. You can also dial in the dose, which is a remarkable thing. And now remember, in the context of this radio program, we talk about medical nutrition for the masses, right? I mean, everybody needs to drink purified water. Everybody needs to not pee upstream and drink downstream. We need to have a sanitation system that eliminates our waste appropriately and effectively. We all need to be eating food that doesn't have crap in it on a regular basis and on a regular basis. These are just generic things that everyone needs to do. Well, our supposition is what I'm going to be talking about tonight, by the way, on a worldwide free webinar called Anti-Aging. Worldwide free webinar. It's free. Anti-Aging, 8 o'clock Central Time tonight. Go to drglidden.com, drglidden.com to get information about how to log into the free event. Worldwide webinar where I'm going to talk tonight about simple steps that everybody can take in a generic boilerplate fashion to increase their lifespan and increase their health. And this is what we talk about here, general stuff that everybody can do right now. And sometimes we do this, and people get better 100%. Sometimes we do this, people get better at 90%, 80%, 70%, and they hit a wall. Well, if you hit a wall in your improvement with foundation generic medical nutrition for the masses, then it's my advice, find a medical professional in your neighborhood who is an applied kinesiologist specialist. Dr. Peel, if someone wanted to dial that in, how would they go about finding someone who has, had all the requisite good training as opposed to somebody who, just did a weekend class?
Yeah, you can. Well, that's a tricky question, Dr. But the easy answer is you can go to ICAK.com, or in the and from there you can scroll through the different, whatever country that you're located in, because it's around the world. There's ICAK Euro, there's ICAK Australia, there's ICAK in anybody that's tuned in. You can find someone near you. And from there, they have a Find a Doc. So ICAKUSA.com, you can go on the Find a Doc, put in your zip code, and it'll pop up all the people that are registered. The people that are registered, it doesn't necessarily tell you their qualifications. Now, if you go on there and you find the letters after the name DICAK, that means they're a diplomate in applied kinesiology. So they've gone beyond just certification, but they've gotten their diplomate status. Another way that you could find someone that practices the way I practice that I would recommend looking up is on totalbodymodification.com. And there's a Find a Physician on there as well. And that one does tell you what their certification was with that system of healing.
Now, fascinating stuff again. So, in our workings together, you have become an advocate of longevity and Dr. Wallach's line of nutritional support products. When you test people with applied kinesiology as to whether or not longevity products are effective for them, generally speaking, what has your experience been?
They've tested very well. And with testing, it might be good to just say what that entails with the testing. We talked briefly about the heart meridian and it being finding a muscle that's functionally inhibited, not working well. What we can do is we can take a nutrient substance, just like with that Blackhawks player or any other patient, and we put that nutrient in their mouth, like taking a tangerine. I'm right here. Put this in the mouth, and if that dysfunctional muscle becomes functional, that tells us that there's something in there that the body recognizes useful and it needs. It's creating a benefit in the body. And when we test nutrients, there's three basic things we can find. We can find there's no effect. The dysfunctional muscle stays dysfunctional and the functional muscle stays functional. But we can also test substances that are not good for the body. And in that instance, a functional muscle becomes dysfunctional. It doesn't work properly. So we can identify things that the body is sensitive to or that are bad for the body and things that are good for the body and the body needs more of. And so that's what we do. Yeah, I found the longevity products to test very well. That's not true with all supplement companies. We are very selective in our office of the supplements that we use, and we've tested many. Oftentimes patients come in with their grocery bag full of supplements that they've been taking, and one of the things we do on a first visit is go through all of them to see, well, are they causing your problem?
You gotta, yeah, right. I mean, it's fascinating, really. So as it turns out, the proof of the pudding not only is in the eating, but ultimately it's in the muscles as well. And if you have a professional, a medical professional who's been trained in this diagnostic technique and has actual clinical experience with this diagnostic technique, then let's just say you're going to be way ahead of the curve. So, Dr. Peel, if people are interested in coming to see you as a patient, what do they have to do? What are the steps?
To see us as a patient, you can go on to the website and email us to set up an appointment, or you can call that number right there, 855-EVOLVE-U, which is 855-386-5838, and schedule an appointment. In schedule an appointment, we do bill insurance for patients that would like that. Some people don't want that, and we have self-pay options as well.
And generally speaking, if someone were to come to see you, and by the way, I can't believe I'm going to ask this question because I hate it when people ask me. But if you had to give a ballpark number of the amount of times a person is going to need to see you to get a major leverage with a chronic health condition, is it 10 times, 1,000 times? Generally speaking, what's your timetable for treatment?
Well, someone with a chronic condition, it becomes a lifestyle. It's a way of living. It's a way of doing things. You know, when if someone's dehydrated and they finally get enough salt and water into their diet that they're hydrated, they don't just stop doing it.
Yeah, it's a point well taken, right? It is a lifestyle change, and this is what we're all about here, educating people about what they can do, helping them to get over the hump wherever they're stuck, and then maintaining a relationship for life. That's what we're up to here in Longevity. Stick around, more to come. Learning something? I certainly am. I have to tell you something. Every time I go to Dr. Peel's office for a treatment, my head does explode because some of the things that he's able to come up with, it's remarkable to me that this type of a diagnostic procedure is available, and yet so few physicians do it. And I'd like to talk about that, Dr. Peel. So how long have you been involved with professional applied kinesiology, and what's kind of your sense of where it's at now and where it's going professionally?
I graduated chiropractic school in 2008, and I started studying applied kinesiology while I was in school. While I was in the chiropractic program in Portland, Oregon, I took the weekend seminars, would spend 17 hours a weekend in applied kinesiology classes outside of my 36 hours a week of school. And so I was certified in applied kinesiology before I graduated chiropractic, and they do allow students of a professional program to start studying it. The way the overseeing governing body of applied kinesiology is the International College of Applied Kinesiology. We unfortunately lost Dr. Goodhart, who was a great inspiration to all of us, the founder of the profession, and he was a genius. He was the first chiropractor to be team physician for the U.S. Olympic team in 1980, Lake Placid. And we lost him in 2008. And since then, it was, a little bit rocky, but the organization right now has excellent leadership, and they're doing a lot to really improve the organization and get it up into making it more mainstream, putting out a lot of good research. We've got a lot of great evidence that's coming out, getting published. And it looks really good. It looks really promising. It's growing. Absolutely.
I think I may have misheard you when you spoke about the website. Is the website for the professional applied kinesiology I like indigo, P like Peter, A like Apple, K like, what is it? Give it to me again.
No, it's not. Yeah, misheard it. I is in indigo, C is in cat. International College of Applied Kinesiology.
Well, how about that? I did get it right. Okay, great. All right, thanks so much, Dr. Peel. Man, I would love to just, have you back as a regular guest, because the stuff that we could talk for hours about specific muscle groups as they're related to different parts of the body, and the pulse diagnostic technique and acupuncture meridians is all really, really, really fascinating stuff. I appreciate your perspective on this. I appreciate your stand for holistic medicine. I appreciate your support and promotion of Dr. Wallach's health recovery message. Every once in a while, you're like the fella said, you're not born into your family, but you meet members of your family as you go through life. I appreciate everything that you do. Ladies and gentlemen, once more, Dr. Peel's website, evolve2wellness.net, 855-EVOLVE-U. That's I-C like Charlie, A like Apple, K like Ku Klux Klan.com for information about the International Association. But, I think a better option for people, just fly to Chicago and have a visit with Dr. Peel. I think that's probably one of the better things you could do. Dr. Peel, in the last minute and a half, any parting thoughts?
As you opened this show, it was St. Augustine that said miracles are merely the part of nature we have yet to understand. And fortunately, the technology is starting to finally catch up. And, if I can see farther than others, it's because I stand on the shoulders of giants. Sir Isaac Newton.
That's why I love him so much. Ladies and gentlemen, twin sons of different mothers, let's say goodbye to Dr. Matthew Peel. Dr. Peel, looking so very much forward to seeing you in the future. Keep up the very good work that you're doing. Evolve2wellness.net, ladies and gentlemen, 855-EVOLVE-U, 855-EVOLVE-U. I'm Dr. Peter Glidden. This is Fire Your MD Now. Stick around. We're going right to the phones when we come back, and it looks like Jim from Myrtle Beach is up first. Thanks so much for tuning in and turning on.